let us move to next bit, what we call it as landfills. See, you need to understand, right? What do we mean by landfills, or what are the necessity of doing a landfill? See, whenever we have a waste, right, a waste which can be decomposed or which can be composed or which cannot be used for any recycle and recovery purpose, we are going to be throwing them in an area, right? Basically, what happens? You cannot say that the waste. Let us say this is a waste which is generated. Let us say after segregating, there is a waste which is being left out. Now, to this waste, you cannot say that this waste should be thrown up. What you're going to be doing with this waste, you are supposed to dispose this waste, isn't it? The disposal system has to taken place of this one. So for the disposal system, what you can do with this waste? Okay, either on the land area you can simply throw this waste, or that is over the ground level, or what we'll be doing in many majority of cases, we are going to be forming a landfill. Forming a landfill means what? We are going to be excavating a ground, right? We are going to be excavating a ground. In this ground, the waste which was separated or has been ready for disposal, those waste is being dumped over here. But before we do that, like, this is what we call it as a landfill. This area is what we call it as a landfill area, where we are throwing our municipal waste after all the components, segregation, drying, and dewatering has been done, and all the recovery and reuse material has been taken out. Then it is going to be dumped over here. So what happens to this? As the time increases or as the time goes on, let us say today you have dumped this one on the day one, second day you have dumped, third day you have dumped, like this it has been continued dumping. So a time comes when your landfill is going to be reaching the maximum capacity, isn't it or not? One day or the other day, this landfill is going to be completely filled off. Right? What do we do? We again go in the search for next landfill. Then what happens to this landfill? What happens to this waste? This waste is getting decomposed. Right? Depending upon the property of the waste you have, the decomposition is going to be taking place. Now, while it is going to be getting decomposed, what happens? See, when they get decomposed, they do have what have they do have some chemicals or some liquids or some chemicals are going to be generated, and it is going to be leading to the what you call it as a false smell, which is going to be getting generated every day or every time the false smell is going to be getting evolved. So what we have to do, we have to cover this one. So once it is going to be filled, we are going to be covering them either by the soil or by a layer of soil or a layer of what the grasslands and all, metros and all. They are using this one for many purposes, right? Then the top surface can be used for any purposes. So this is what we call it as a landfill, where we are going to be dumping our waste. Now, the size of this landfill, the dimension of this landfill, the depth of this landfill, do all depends upon how much waste you are going to be throwing over here. Let us say you have selected a landfill, but if this landfill get filled in 1 month only, then what happens to the design part? What you have attained for the management system, it is going to be a failure system, right? Because this landfill, let us say you have designed for 1 year, but if what not estimated properly, within 1 month, if these landfills get filled up, then the purpose is not going to be served, right? Then this happens. This when does this happen? Let us say you design it for 1 year, but within 1 month only, this landfill is going to be getting filled up. The reason why it is going to be getting filled up is what? Huh? Why it is going to be getting filled up is because the amount which you have calculated, the intensity of the waste which you have calculated to be generated from a locality is going to be wrong. That means that you thought that at every day or every month, this much might be the waste generated dumped in the landfill. But what is happening? Every day, every month, this much amount of landfill is going to be getting generated. You have underestimated or you have wrongly estimated the quantity of your waste. Depending upon the quantity of the waste, the dimension of your landfill is going to be getting decided. Now, you need to understand how this landfills is going to be working, what are its advantages, what are disadvantages. There are many things we need to understand, right? Because if a landfill is not designed properly, it is going to be leading to a n number of problems, very hazardous problem. Okay, okay, but before we go in detail, let us understand this one very detailedly. Right. Let us say this is the landfill now. Let us say you have dumped the waste over here. Let us say the waste has been dumped, right? And it has been covered also, right? Once it has been done, let us say you have covered this with some component, right? Some amount of soil or some amount of layers you have put over the soil over here, then you have compacted. Now tell me, just try to understand what happens to this waste which is uh, decomposing. As the time goes on, this decomposition leads to leaching of chemical. That means that as the decomposition take place, there might be some rainfall which is going to be taking place. While the rainfall takes place, the water starts to percolate within the ground. From the ground, it comes to the waste. From the waste, from the void of the one waste to other waste, it is going to be getting, it is going to be percolating. While it is going to be percolating, it carries all the toxic chemicals which were generated while the soil, the waste is going to be getting decomposed. Then where it goes, when the percolation continues, this further goes into the ground. Then the contamination of the soil is going to be taking place. When this chemical or toxic chemical reaches to the water table in the ground, then the contamination of water is going to be taking place. So when you design, you should know this, all these disadvantages. If you are not preventing them properly, if you are making those chemicals or water which is going to be getting collected in this landfill to move further in the ground, then there is always hazardous consequences of contamination of the soil and contamination of the water. So what happens? Let us say today it has been contaminated. After 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, the complete water is going to be getting contaminated. The best example, should I tell you? Do you remember? If let us say if this is your site, like let us say if this is the area or if this is the location of your house. Let us say if the building is at this point, right? And if your septic tank is at this location, right? What you say? Do you prefer to go for a well at this point? Do you prefer to go for a well or a borewell at this point? No. Everybody says that it should be at other end of the house, or it should be at other end of the, or at the other corner of the house. The reason is what? Because we say that when there is going to be any leakage, might not be leakage in a higher quantity, might be a leakage in a smaller quantity, but this leakage at some point of the time it is going to be leading to the contamination of water. The same is the what which is going to be having with the landfills, right? If this is the landfill, let us say this is not septic tank, this is your landfill. These landfills, if they are not lined properly, or if the design process or maintenance process is not taken properly, then there is every chances or every possibility that this contamination is going to be further leading to the contamination of your groundwater. So this is the reason why they should always take a preventive measure so as to make sure that this leakage is not taking place at any point of time. So that is what you're supposed to read in this landfill. In this landfill, you need to understand the concept of how a landfill is going to be working, or efficient working. See, working doesn't mean that it should simply work. Everybody works, right? Everything works, whether you do or not, everything is going to be working. But the working or the concept of principle should understood thoroughly, because you are designing this one, right? If you don't design it efficiently, then it becomes a hazardous thing, right? So the concept you have to understand. Then how can you optimize the landfill in a solid waste management system, right? See, optimization is very much important. Optimization means to extract or to have the maximum or the efficient working of your landfill. I told you. See, it is not only the soil or the water under the below the ground level or below the landfill which is going to be getting contaminated. Also, if this has not been covered properly, what happens? Let us say you have led with only small amount of soil. What happens to the soil? In some due course of time, the soil is going to be getting compressed. As it gets compressed along with the soil, disposed material in the landfill, this is also going to be getting suppressed. When it is going to be getting suppressed, okay, when it is going to be suppressed, what happens? This soil which was laid over there, this is also going to be getting suppressed. When it is going to be getting suppressed, this all the solid waste which was there, now this is going to be exposed. When this is going to be exposed, this leads to breeding of flies, breeding of different harmful bacteria, which leads in attracting animals and birds, which leads in spreading of diseases. Even the foul smell is going to be getting spread at a higher quantity. So what happens? So this is going to be leading a very haphazard or hazardous consequences once it is not going to be taken care properly. So you have to take all the measures or all the steps to optimize it, to use it to a maximum efficiency. Maximum efficiency, if it is working thoroughly, if it is working properly, then automatically it is going to be giving you good efficiency or good what do you call it as results. So you need to optimize this, right? Okay. Then you need to understand the design principle. So to once I call and once I say that it has to give me the optimized value, or it is a landfill gives me good efficiency, then I should know what are the design principles. You're not designing over here, but you need to understand the design principle. Design principle means on what basis, on what criteria, on what conditions, on what ground, on what environmental conditions, on what ground conditions, and on what waste conditions should be taken up to convey the waste to the landfill. All those we have to study over here. Study what, until and unless I design what is the dimension of this landfill based upon the property of the waste which are going to be dealing with, based upon the physical characteristics property of the waste, based upon the environmental characteristics of the landfill location, right? See, you cannot simply locate a landfill in a fertile area, because if a fertile area is being, if there is, God forbid, if at any point of time, if there is any amount of leakage, the complete fertile land is going to be getting contaminated. Or you cannot propose a landfill near a water source or source of water, right? Or you have to design principle. So there are or even right, even near to a what you call it as your good ecological system or a good ecological area, you cannot simply propose your landfill, because it is going to be deteriorating the uh, environmental aesthetic appearance of the environment. So all this basic design principle has to be studied. Then you need to have understand what is going to be the treatment efficiency. Based upon this treatment efficiency, we can understand, we can analyze how much amount of the waste is being how much amount of chemical is being generated on periodic basis, right? So you need to know the treatment efficiency. Treatment efficiency means, see, as we know that when you are going to be disposing the any waste on a landfill, you know that if this is the waste which is generated, right, it undergoes some different process. There might be segregation, right? It might be compaction or the volume reduction, right? All this basic treatments are going to be given. The need of giving this basic treatment is that we want to make sure that whatever the waste which we are going to be disposing on a landfill, it is being given with some treatment, so that it should not generate such an harmful chemical, which in case if it is going to be generated, it's going to be leading to decrease the efficiency of our landfill. So the treatment efficiency should be analyzed. See, let us say if this waste is the waste which are going to be putting onto a landfill, from this waste, let us say we have removed the hazardous waste, right? Or if you have taken up your the material which can be decomposed for a long duration of time, or if you have removed a sanitary waste, or if you have removed the sanitary waste in a segregation part. Let us say you have only a waste which comprises of paper, uh, plastic which can be degradable plastic, and waste which is comprising of cloths, any material of the cloths. is being taken place. So what happens here? You have already removed the waste which is going to be leading to hazardous conditions. Hazardous waste you have removed. You have removed the sanitary waste, or you have removed the what you call test the waste of your material which is going to be decomposing for a longer time. So what happens if you have this one? This in suppression only, you are giving some treatments to this waste which is being taken to your landfill. Now the waste which is having at this point, if you take the waste at this point and the waste which was there in the prior condition, both characteristics are different. So you are in one what you call it as, in one way you are going to be treating the waste. So once you are going to be treating this waste, what happens? The efficiency is going to be getting increased. Now this waste which was there before you have applied the segregation process, and once you have applied the suppression process, both have different characteristics, property. Now this helps in understanding the different treatment which you are going to be giving to this waste, right? So it improves the efficiency. So the efficiency of the waste do depends upon the treatment how we are going to be giving. Then you have O&M. Of course, the operation and maintenance is going to be always playing a very important role. How you are going to be operating, what are the methods you are going to be taking this to operate, all those is going to be playing a very crucial role. So the operation and maintenance is going to be playing a very important role. And its application means how best you are going to be using this, how proper techniques you are going to be applying. All those things is what we are going to be having, or we are going to be taking in your landfill and land formation, right? This is all what you have